you listen to reason? Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder.
So we'll go ahead and start taking calls. We've got Gary in Manhattan.
Yes, that's correct.
How are you, Gary?
I'm doing very good, Mr. DeLon. Did you have that you?
Oh, just Matt. Matt's fine, but thanks, I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. The reason I was calling, I actually spoke with your co-host Martin, I believe it is, through an email, and I wanted to present a positive case here today for intelligent design.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, specifically I wanted to discuss irreducible complexity and the Dover trial with you guys. First, I read on your Iron Chariots page, Matt, which I have to say is a very good encyclopedia, very informative. I hear intelligent design is just another form of creationism, and I wanted to ask, what makes you think that?
Intelligent design is creationism in a lab coat, or a Trojan horse for creationism, etc. And it's because mostly it's about the way that it's used. What happened? I mean, if you actually look it up, we've found the transitional form between creationism and intelligent design, and it's Kerr-design proponentists, and it was of pandas and people. Obviously, we talked about in the Dover trial. Everything.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but could I please respond to that point? Actually, the design proponentist.
Sure.
I'm really glad you brought this up because I realize this is one of the leading criticisms against intelligent design, and what I have in front of me here actually is both that reference to the exact quote which contains that term, and a copy of some other drafts actually of the book of Pandas and People, which for whatever reason are not quoted. And I'm reading some of the quotes from them here, and I'd like to read one of them onto the air. Because
what are the dates of those drafts? Because it was basically they bookended a Supreme Court ruling that removed creationism, and the drafts that came before it had creationism and creationists, and the drafts that came after it had intelligent design and intelligent design proponents.
Yeah, but my argument's not that the term wasn't in there. I mean, you read a lot of evolution writings and the term creationist is in there. But what I'm saying is from the content of the actual draft, they say statements like I have right here in front of me. Some master intellect is the creator of life, but such observable instances of information can't tell us if the intellect behind them is natural or supernatural. This is not a question that science can answer. And from what I gathered from my research, this is the same draft in which C-design proponentist was found. So what you have here is a quote that's basically saying, we know the supernatural is not part of science, we don't want to go there. So I feel like that's showing the context of the book. While the term creationist might not be in there, it's making it very clear that the purpose of this book is not to invoke the supernatural.
Well, it doesn't really matter, though. I mean, ultimately, what you have got going on here is a whole lot of spin that the creationist movement essentially concocted as a way of more or less passing what's called the lemon test, right? This whole issue of church-state separation violation. Creationism was not able to get a foothold in science classes because it was very clearly religiously motivated. And so they were like, well, clearly what we have to do is repackage this. We have to put this in some sort of form that sounds scientific, that passes legal muster, so that there cannot be any kind of objection to it on legal grounds in terms of promoting religion and religious teachings. And that's really what this whole exercise in replacing creator with intelligent designer, with entity, whatever sort of safe word you might have, design proponents in replacing creationists. These are all just ways to sort of get around legal hassles.
And the proof of that is in the statement that you just read.
Yeah.
You read it, and you think that this is telling that they're not trying to muddle with science.
But it opens with a statement about a creator.
It opens with an intelligent creator, and they say it could be natural or supernatural. And yet they say this is beyond the realm of science. Well, if it's natural, it's not beyond science. So they're negating the possibility that it's natural as soon as they say that this is outside the realm of science.
Well, what they're saying in the passage that I just read to you is we understand that our theory of intelligent design might very well, in fact, have religious implications. But what they're saying is they want to stick to the claim that there may be signs of intelligence detectable in nature, such as looking at the bacterial flagellum and irreducible complexity. And okay, if we can...
Yeah, but claims
that
about
this is
bacterial
done-
flagellum and irreducible complexity have all been blown out of the water in terms of being evidence for some sort of design. We understand the evolutionary processes that lead to these things, in organisms that, that certain ID proponents are saying, are evidence of irreducible complexity. Kenneth Miller has completely knocked irreducible complexity right off the table. And there's a lot of studying there's a lot of research and a lot of science done to understand.
The Ken Miller claim, you said Ken Miller completely blew irreducible complexity out of the water. I really would like to respond to that.
Yeah, well, if you can, sure. I mean, if you claim to know more about biology than one of the leading biologists in the country, who also happens to be a theist, by all means.
Well,
yeah, I never made that claim, sir, that I knew more about biologists than biologists in the country. What I'm saying is I think, and correctly I might add, Michael Behe and countless others in the intelligent design movement have responded to the claims that Dr. Miller has made, and I actually think Dr. Miller strawmans Dr. Behe's definition of irreducible complexity. And I have actually right in front of me here a quote from Michael Behe's Darwin's Black Box, page 40 for all of the viewers who are watching over here. And it says, even if this is from Michael Behe's own book where he published this idea, even if the system is irreducibly complex, one can't definitively rule out the possibility of an indirect circuitous route. As the complexity of an interacting system increases, though the likelihood of such an indirect route drops precipitously, and as the number of unexplained, irreducibly complex biological systems increases, our confidence that Darwin's criterion of failure has been met skyrockets towards the maximum that science allows. So what Dr. Behe is saying in that passage that I just read is, yeah, co-option might work, indirect pathways for things like the flagellum might have been found, but the more of those things you find, that if you remove one part away, the system doesn't work.
But that's exactly that's where Miller completely knocks Behe's point out of the water, because Behe's whole idea about IC is that what you just said. If you remove one part of this entire complex mechanism that he is saying is irreducibly complex, if you remove one part, then it can't work.
At its current function, for example. So let's talk about
who cares?
Who cares? The whole point is Miller gives Miller gives a very clear example in which no fewer than 40 elements are removed from the flagellum's tail. And they have a function. They have, as Matt said, the function is simply different. Okay. Elements of an organism have a function, and then they come together. A different function is now performed. The original function is no longer formed, but they simply do other things in their earlier stages.
I understand your point. I understand Dr. Miller's point. What Behe is saying here is, first of all, if you concede the point, you move one part away, the flagellum doesn't function as a motor. That's what Behe is saying. Now, if you find other systems that do that, what Miller has attempted to do with the type 3 secretory system, which is, I believe, is what you're referring to, with taking away 40 of the flagellum's 50 proteins, what Miller is saying is, yeah, we found something that might be an intermediate. What Behe is saying is, one is you have to account for now this huge indirect process for all of these systems which are irreducibly complex. Because one part away, the system can't function in its present form.
Hang on. Before we get to the furthermore, I put it that nobody has demonstrated that a system is in fact irreducibly complex. They have just asserted it, and it is an argument from ignorance. It is a claim that, look at this system, we can't think of anything that it could do or any other way that it could have come about, therefore I will declare it to be irreducibly complex. And I assert that that is an argument from ignorance. First, you need to actually demonstrate that an irreducibly complex system exists. And when Behe has tried with his prime examples, it has been demonstrated that in fact that is not an irreducibly complex system, provided we allow for function to change. The content of this video is produced by the Atheist Community of Austin, a nonprofit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. If you enjoyed this content and are willing and able to provide a donation, please visit the website below.